Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes. After the meditation, we have a Dhamma talk and question and answer. Right now I like to invite to the Reverend Ratan Sara to lead the meditation.
Thank you, Abbot of the International Buddhist Meditation Center. And it's time to practice and do the loving kindness meditation. So already you will have a comfortable cushions and the chairs. So you can, if you can, close your eyes and keep your right palm on the left palm. And take a long breath 3 times. Okay, try to relax your body, relax your head and your forehead, your eyes, ears, nose, your face and your neck, your shoulders and your both hands, your chest, stomach, thigh and your both legs. Now you feel there is nothing with me. You will feel like an emptiness in your body. Now we are going to do the loving kindness meditation. Begin with yourself to others and for all the directions, all humans and non-humans. So you can repeat after me silently. May I be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always find fulfillment. May I also have patience, courage, understanding and determination to meet, overcome inevitable difficulties, problems and failures in life. May my parents be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they find fulfillment. May they also have patience, courage, understanding and determination to meet, overcome inevitable difficulties, problems and failures in life. May my brothers and sisters, may my wife and my husband and all my family members and all my relatives, my all the neighbors be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them, may no difficulties come to them, may no problems come to them. May they also find fulfillment. May they have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May my all friends and teachers and the Dhamma teachers and also and all the villagers and all humans and non-humans be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them, may no difficulties come to them, may no problems come to them. May they also find fulfillment. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life, and also all the directions, all human beings and non-human beings and animals, and also all the enemies. And if someone try to hate me, if someone try to love me, if someone try to encourage me, if someone try to compassion to me, if someone try to mercy me, those kind of all the peoples in this planet and all other planets, in this world and all other worlds, all beings and all sentient beings, be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them, may no difficulties come to them, may no problems come to them. May they find fulfillment. And also may they have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. As I mentioned, all the people be well and happy and peaceful. Be well and happy and peaceful. Be well and happy and peaceful. You can practice silently this loving kindness meditation until you hear the bell.
Ratnasara leading the Metta meditation. Right now, time for the Dhamma talk. Today our speaker is Reverend Kusala. You can start your Dhamma talk right now.
Up close and personal. Okay. Hey, Jeannie. Okay, Sunday, June 2025. Man. So I was talking to Kashanti last week or the week before, and I said, Kashanti, did you hear this one? Everyone dies 3 times, it has been said. He said, no. What does that mean? Well, the first death is when our body stops breathing. And then the coroner comes and says, you're dead. The second death happens when we get buried and have a funeral service. And one of my favorite YouTube channels is Hollywood Graveyard. And they go to these different graveyards and they stop right at the headstone. And then they tell you who's buried there and what they did, what kind of life they had. A lot of celebrities, a lot of successful people. But I have found every time I've done a memorial service, I've always learned more about the person after they're dead than when they were alive. And I just wish sometimes they were still alive so I could talk to them, ask them some questions. The third way we die, the final way we die, is when the last person on earth speaks our name. Yeah. So today I'm talking about Dr. Ratnasara. Going to keep his name alive. He died in May of 2000 at the age of 80, which I'm sure made him feel good because the Buddha died at the age of 80 as well. So how did I meet Dr. Ratnasara? Well, in 1979, I came here to IBMC to learn how to meditate, and we had Shinzen Young, the vice abbot, who was teaching meditation. And I listened to him, and it didn't make any sense at all, but I kept coming back because I realized there was something about it that was probably good, and that I probably needed to do if I wanted to be a better person. So from 79 to the early 80s, once a week, once every other week, I would come here and Shinzen would talk and I'd listen, and he had the best Dharma talks. I didn't understand half of what he was saying, but he had the best Dharma talks. And a lot of other people knew what he was saying, and so I figured, well, if they knew, I could find out eventually as well. So one day after the meditation, I said to him, you know, I really like to meet somebody who's from early Buddhist tradition of Theravada. Could you recommend anybody to me? So I could sort of find out how it all started. And Shinzen said, yeah, I can. There's a Buddhist temple on Crenshaw Boulevard, Dharma Vijaya Buddhist Vihara, and there's a monk there named Dr. Ratnasara. And he's been in America for a couple of years now, and he has a class every Wednesday, which is open to the public. So he would be a good place to start. So I said, okay. So the next Wednesday, I went to Dharma Vijaya Buddhist Vihara and knocked on the door, and Dr. Ratnasara answered the door. I says, I'm here for the class. He says, it starts next week. I said, okay. So I went back the following week, and the class started. It was me and him. I was the class. So he had an interesting way of doing it. He said, we're going to study this book. I said, okay. You know, one book or another, it didn't matter to me. And the book was The Visuddhimagga, The Path of Purification, 900 pages long. I said, this is going to take us a while to get through this one. And what I would do is I would sit down, and he'd be over there, and I'd be over here, and I'd read a page from the book. And then he would say, do you have any questions? I said, nope. We go to the next page. I'd read the next page. Do you have any questions? Nope. So, you know, a lot of the stuff I didn't understand, but I figured I didn't even know what kind of question to ask. You know, there's something about asking the right question to get the right answer, and I didn't have any right questions. So I just read and listened, and then some of the stuff I was curious about was, did you guys back then have toothbrushes? He said, oh yeah, we had toothbrushes. It was like a little root, and you rub the end of the root and it would get all bristly, and that's what we used for a toothbrush. So that's sort of where I was. It wasn't deep Dharma discussions. I was just curious, how did they live? How did they brush their teeth? Did all the teeth fall out? Because they didn't have dentists back then. So we kept going, and then I started to find out more and more about him. And I was just blown away. Because, you know, you see a monk in a robe and you just go, oh, he's a monk, and that's cool. And then, but a lot of monks don't do anything. They meditate, they share the Dharma, and that's about it. But this guy was busy. 1957, he was the UN representative for Sri Lanka. First monk ever to go and represent Sri Lanka in the UN. I thought, that is so cool, you know? Then, in 1980, he founded the Buddhist Sangha Council of Southern California. So he was creating an interreligious council among Buddhists. No, not the Christians, but among Buddhists. So we had the Thai, and we had the Sri Lankan, and we had the Japanese, and we had the Chinese, and we have all these different kinds of Buddhists coming together and sharing experiences and having goals and working together and stuff like that. Man. He also started the American Buddhist Congress. He was co-founder of the American Buddhist Congress. And that was an organization that was put together to give American Buddhists a voice. Because in LA, everybody's here. And he was very much a supporter of American Buddhism. He wanted to get it established. He wanted it to make a difference in America. He also started with Monsignor Royal Vatican, the LA Buddhist Catholic Dialogue, which is still in operation today. They meet once a month, and they have topics that they talk about. They share their perspectives, the Catholics and the Buddhists. And I can remember back in the 80s, Dr. Ratnasara said, why don't you come with us? Reverend Karuna, Dr. Ratnasara, and me. Why don't you come with us, and you can see what it's all about. So I said, okay. Now, I wasn't ordained then. I was wearing my civvies, and I went and sat in on the, and I couldn't believe how smart everybody was. I'm thinking, what the hell are they talking about? You know, we got between the Buddhists and the Catholics, most of them have master's degrees, a lot of them have PhDs, and they're really esoteric subjects that most people wouldn't talk about or even understand. But I was fascinated, because I'm always fascinated about how much I don't know. And the older I get, the less I know. Pretty soon, I won't know anything. And then I will have reached the epitome of wisdom. Because only the very wise say, I don't know. So it got me thinking, you know, in an interfaith way, in an interreligious way, that this is important stuff. Because we have an amazing amount of diversity, but as the Buddha said, it's all connected. So how do we come together and be on the same page, but not be one? You know, and that's the deal. Everybody says, well, we're all one. And we all know that that's not the case, because we're all different. So what I like to say is, no, we're not all one, but we are all connected, whether we see it or not. So I don't need to be one with you. We're already there. And most people just listen to that and go, what are they talking about? Those Buddhists, what do they know? So my interreligious and interfaith journey started because Dr. Ratnasara took me to a Buddhist Catholic dialogue, and it just fascinated me. Now in 1994, Dr. Ratnasara and Reverend Karuna had a grand ordination, and that's where I took my novice ordination. And it was an amazing event. Only in California, maybe New York, but only in California is this stuff going to happen. So we had ordination masters from a variety of traditions. We had people being ordained from a variety of traditions. And one of the things that stood out to me was there was a family, a mother and a father and a daughter. And the daughter was in her 20s. And they were Vietnamese. And they were all getting ordained that day together. And then after the ordination ceremony, they all went to different temples. And I'm going, wow, what a trip that is. They were really devoted, and they really wanted to be ordained. And those are the kind of people that make the best monks and nuns, the ones that want to be ordained. So in my world of interfaith, I started with the Buddhist Catholic dialogue, and then after 9/11, they were having a conference in Indiana on a book called Benedict's Dhamma. Now, the rule of St. Benedict is something that has been followed by monks for hundreds of years. And it's sort of their, it's sort of their manual. And this book was put together by Buddhists and Catholics, and they interviewed Buddhists who had read the rule of St. Benedict, and they were commenting on it. There was a commentary on it. Now, this book is still available. You can find it on Amazon.com. It's called Benedict's Dhamma. But because it was just after 9/11, nobody wanted to go to the conference because they had to fly, and they were afraid to fly because everybody thought the next plane was going to blow up. Okay, so they asked me, through Dr. Ratnasara and the Buddhist Catholic Dialogue, would you like to be part of Benedict's Dhamma in Indiana? And we'll fly you there, and we'll give you a place to stay, and you won't have to say anything. You'll just be part of the audience. And I said, sure, I'll go. And the plane flight, hardly anybody was in the plane. Those were the good old days. And I was there, and I met people, and things started, and then I found out about MID, Monastic Interreligious Dialogue, which is an international organization, but has a national chapter. And I got on their list. They always were trying to find Buddhists to join the Catholic monastics, and then they would have different topics. One of them was celibacy. How do Catholics look at celibacy? How do Buddhists look at celibacy? Do they look at it the same? So that was one of the Monks in the West conference. That was part of the MID. Monks in the West, Nuns in the West. Reverend Karuna did a lot of those, Nuns in the West conferences. And then they had the Gethsemane Encounter. Gethsemane is where Thomas Merton used to live. And they would get together, and that would be another part of it, another conference. And so I was part of that, and it was a wonderful experience because I learned so much. And I saw there was a lot of similarities between Catholic monastics and Buddhist monastics. In particular, lifestyle. A lot of them live in monasteries, and they have a structured environment. It's done by time and habit, pardon the fun. And so it was like, yeah, okay, you know, and I just learned a whole lot about these guys. And these guys were good. I enjoyed them. When you see a Catholic monk, it's a little different than a city priest who has a congregation and runs the church. And the monks are cloistered in their way, and they read a lot, and they think a lot. And they do stuff differently than the Catholic priests. It's the same with the Buddhists. The Buddhist in LA would be a little different than the Buddhists who live out in the country in a monastery. And one of the things, I think it was Geshe Gelsen, who said something. I was at a conference with Geshe Gelsen and some other Buddhists, and we were up in Northern California. And we stopped for lunch. We're driving up there in a caravan, and we stopped for lunch. And so in our conversation, Geshe Gelsen said that American monastics are like white crows, very rare indeed. And as I look around and see American monastics or Dharma teachers, very rare indeed, you know? And often the voice is unheard to the extent of the Asian monastics, because they've had a tradition of Buddhism for 2,000, 2,500 years. We've had it 150 years, 100 years. We're just the babies. We're just learning. But the one thing that we have that Asian monastics don't have is a cultural background. Our culture is in us. We carry it with us wherever we go. We have a particular way of looking at stuff. We have a particular way of talking about stuff, understanding stuff. Okay, and that's going to be necessary when the American lay people come and ask you, what is Buddhism? What does Buddhism mean to you? Now, if I'm in Thailand and I'm Thai, Buddhism has a whole different meaning than if I'm in LA and born in Iowa. Got a whole different meaning. So how exciting is it to find out that the Catholics and the Buddhists and all the different traditions, and that Buddhism is finally here in America? How exciting is it that we're all in the vanguard? We're all helping create American Buddhism. And that's exactly what Dr. Ratnasara wanted. He wanted us to have our own Buddhism. And that's remarkable, because you don't hear that often. And he supported us in so many different ways. And in that ordination that he did with Reverend Karuna in 1994, here it was apparent. It was apparent that he was a cheerleader, that he wanted us to succeed and finally come to a place of American Buddhism. Now, one of the things I've realized is that a lot of American monastics and Dharma teachers are second career. They weren't born into the temple. Though Dr. Ratnasara started his tenure in the temple when he was a teenager. Parents said, yeah, you can go to the temple and learn how to be a monk. I think he was 14 or 15. He was just a young guy. So I was 44. And I'm thinking, yeah, that was the second half. Well, that was the first half of my life. Now there's the second half of the life. And people say, well, do you wish you had gone in being a monastic earlier? And I said, no. I needed to find out why life was filled with suffering. I needed to understand what the Buddha was talking about. And if I had been a monk since I was 14, I might have a different way of looking at it. But you know, when you're in the world and you're just like seeing all the stuff going on, you're trying to get the next job, you're trying to go to lunch, your car breaks down, you don't have enough money for rent, all these things. And then you come to Buddhism and you go, wow, that's it. This is the answer. And then you accept the role of a monk or nun, and then you try to share what you've learned with people who are asking the questions. And I always warn people, I can't answer those questions that you're asking. I can only tell you how I think about it. I can only point in a certain direction, but I can't tell you what to look at. I can't tell you what to see, because we're all different. So as I evolved from the guy who didn't understand what Shinzen was talking about to going to listen to Dr. Arsar and seeing how amazing monks can be in the world, and then becoming one myself, and then starting my interreligious journey, and then also starting my engaged Buddhism journey. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about engaged Buddhism. And I never really meant that much to me before. But now I see my book is all about engaged Buddhism. It's about getting out into the world and making a difference. So when I was a ride-along police chaplain, when I was a volunteer at juvenile hall, when I was a volunteer at state prison, when I was a volunteer at UCLA, that's engaged Buddhism. That's taking what you know and bringing it to the situation, bringing it to the party. Now, will everybody understand what you're saying? No, they won't. Will everybody care? No, they won't. But that's not your job to make them care or understand. Your job is simply to show up and do what you do, and then you leave and get ready for the next time, and the next time, and the next time. And one day, according to Mahayana Buddhism, everybody will end their suffering, and the world will be a wonderful place. But the problem for me when I read that the first time was that, well, we've got 8 billion people. And we don't have that many monks and nuns out there to address 8 billion people about the question of suffering. And more importantly, the end of suffering. And not only that, but everybody's dying, and then twice as many people are taking their place. So we're looking at 9 billion, 10 billion. So again, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Because the destination of ending suffering is not going to happen. But the journey of ending suffering happens every day. Happens every day. So, ironically, I got a call from St. John's Abbey. Father William, Kusala, we need your help. Catholic monk. St. John's Abbey, Minnesota. They need my help. I said, well, what can I do, Father William? What would you like me to do? What do you need from me? We need to talk to you. Ooh. The ancient wisdom of Buddhism. They need to hear the American guy talk about it. No, Kusala, we need to hear how you did your social media. How do you do YouTube? Is Facebook a good platform to have? What can we do to get, I'm going, yeah, I can help you with that too. So sometimes wisdom takes all different kinds of dress. This is wise, and this is wise, and this is wise. So next Saturday, I'll be on Zoom with 5 Catholic monks talking about social media platforms. Yeah! So you never know in your journey of life what will be useful later on and what will be important later on. And at some point, if you're lucky, you won't know anything and you'll have finally reached perfection. Thank you for listening. Questions, answers, comments? Anybody? Yeah.
Thank you very much for the talk. I feel very blessed because I knew Bandera Nasara well too, even though I was a kid when he died. And his influence extended far beyond his death because I remember 2 times. One time I was in college and I took a contemporary religious class. Mm-hmm. And he said, have I ever been to Crenshaw? I said, yes. And he said, do you know Dr. Nasara? And I said, yes. And from that moment forward, I never had to do any homework.
There you go. What a blessing.
Another time too is when he was still alive. I remember my dad went to see him, and my dad was feeling really bad. And Bandera Nasara went like this: everyone has their own karma to my dad, and my dad got instant courage. And then I would try to do that too when he felt bad. Everyone has their own karma. He would get off my. So I didn't have that kind of touch like him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he was a special guy.
Yeah, he was.
And ironically, he moved in over here. He lived here for the last years of his life. So I was curious. I said, why do you want to live here? He says, because nobody cares. They don't know who I am, and if they do, they don't care. They got other stuff to do. But when I lived at Dharma Vijaya Buddhist Vihara, everybody wanted to talk to me. Everybody wanted a picture. Everybody, you know. So he moved over here so he could be invisible. And, you know, and so I had a chance to talk to him every day. I just walk across the street. We had conversations, and it was cool. But I can understand. I mean, it'd be like the Dalai Lama, you know. And everybody, if you know he's there, you want to go talk to him. You want to see him. You want to hear what he has to say. But Dr. Ratnasar was so busy doing all his other stuff, establishing Buddhism in Los Angeles, making things happen. He had something special going on. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm glad you didn't have to do any more homework. That's not. That's good.
Yeah, I remember before we took the 8 precepts, we would have training here with Reverend Karuna, and sometimes Dr. Ratnasara would come and sort of quiz us.
Oh.
So, yes, and it was very nerve-wracking when he would come. But he said one day, he looked directly at me, and it was really something, and it was very moving to me. And he said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He said, "Because I guarantee it's going to change your life whether you want it to or not."
True.
And he was right.
Yeah.
You know, he was absolutely right.
Yeah.
And after that, I didn't mind so much when he came.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than self-doubt
Right.
in anything you do,
Right.
you know. And so he was testing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
No, I remember him so fondly because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was like a grandfather,
Yeah.
you know. And he'd just sit down and talk to you, and without the, you know, without the greatness that other people looked at him, he just became like a guy, you know. And he would listen to you, and he would sort of understand, you know, in his own way. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Reverend Crystal, thank you so very much for your down talk today. I arrived just as things were changing, just as he had disappeared. And so I'm always deeply appreciative because the IBMC has given me a place to practice for so many years. I'm always appreciative to hear about the OGs, what the stories were before I was here and everything pieced it together. And I really enjoyed your talk today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, Steve.
Did Dr. Ratnasara start the College of Buddhistic Studies when he came over from Crenshaw?
He did. He started. There was a College of Oriental Studies started by Tianan, and that was back in the 70s. And then when Dr. Ratnasara came over, he started the College of Buddhist Studies.
What happened when Thich Nhat died in 1980 up to when Dr. Ratnasara moved in? Was there like several years there that didn't happen?
Yeah, the story goes that there was a guy named Perdue. I forget I think that was his last name, and he was running the College of Oriental Studies. And when Tianan died, he tried to take over IBMC because he thought it should have more of an intellectual bent than a religious, you know, practice bent. So Reverend Karuna and him went to court. And so he put up one of the buildings for sale to pay for the lawyers. And Reverend Karuna also had a building or something that she put up, and then they had the big court thing. And then Reverend Karuna won. And at that point, the College of Oriental Studies closed down. That's a basic outline.
I'm studying with a Gnostic bishop at the Theosophical Society, and he used to teach here when I bought some of the flyers that I did for, you know, advertising and renting here. You know, he was surprised to see it there, and he knew Thich Nhat Hanh, and he actually taught here for a
Wow.
while, he said.
Yeah.
And he taught, I think, a course on world religions.
Hmm.
So I guess that, he knew Ratnasar
Mhm.
well. And I don't know what period it worked in there, but there seemed to be a more developed curriculum here at that time,
Mhm.
including world religions that he was teaching.
Yeah, the office across the street used to be the library. It used to have the, you know, and the whole thing, and it's just so. Yeah, so it was well put together. It'd been there for, I guess, a number of years. You know, the College for Oriental Studies. But then, you know, everything changes. Everybody wants to be in charge. You know, so what can you do?
They don't want the responsibility of being in charge and the work that it entails.
Well, you know, that sort of never comes to light, it seems. They just have this vision of being in charge. And then when Dr. Ratnasara died, the College of Buddhist Studies stayed alive for a little while, but then that closed as well, because he was the driving factor of that.
Who was heading it up after he passed away?
I'm sorry?
Who was heading it up after Dr. Ratnasar?
I don't remember. I don't remember. This is a few years ago. And like I said earlier, you know, the older I get, the less I know.
I actually remember taking a course from Ratnasar over there, you know, shortly after I moved in here in '97, and it was in like Pali.
Yeah.
I think you got by occasionally.
Yeah. I always got laughed at when I was trying to pronounce Pali.
Yeah, he was always correcting people.
Always correcting people, yeah.
I don't know why, but it was his karma, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't even good with English, so to go in with Pali, you know. But it was fun. It was fun to be in that, you know, that company. Hideki, how are you?
Fine. Yeah, I was really fortunate to come here with Jeannie to hear you talk about Dr. Ratnasara, because both Jeannie and I learned and loved him so much.
Yeah.
His unique way of teaching, where he would read from his book and he would pass out sheets of the translation, and oftentimes they were a little different, so he would point out the difference. And it was really an exciting time for me, because Jeannie and I would discuss each of the stories. He would have 1, 2, or 3 stories.
Mhm.
They were different, and the meaning that we got from it just always stuck with me. And we got to meet you right around that time.
Yeah.
So it was the beginning of a beautiful time.
Yeah, those were special times, and he always had an opinions about stuff, which I really liked.
Yes, he did.
And so, if he didn't like the translation or the commentary, he'd give you his comments on it, which I thought gave me a much better perspective then. There wasn't just one way of looking at stuff, you know. And if you want more on Dr. Ratnasara, if you go to urbandharma.org, scroll down the page and you'll see a whole page on Dr. Ratnasara. And you also find the article from the LA Times when he passed away, and goes into detail. And you can find one of his books. I posted a book of his in PDF on, I think, the philosophy of Buddhist education or something like that. So, but it'll give you a little more insight into who he was and what he did. He was, again, quite a guy.
Yeah, I remember I was in my doctor's office, and there was a little book that he wrote. So I called the number on it, and it was him. He says, "Come on over,"
Come on.
you know, and just, so that's how we joined the College of Buddhist Studies.
The little booklet in the doctor's office.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he gave us our, he ordained, well, he took the,
The 5 precepts?
yeah, and he gave us our name. He said, "I think now you're ready," and he gave us our Buddhist name, and he was there, and he was just, I even went to him not too long before he passed away, and like you said, he was just so reachable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really miss him.
Yeah. No, he was special. He was different. You're not going to find that in high-ranking monastics usually. They're always sort of distant. Yeah.
But, like I feel like he's coming from this generation of Buddhist monks from Sri Lanka
Yeah.
that were very scholarly, very well educated, and very good at English. Like I think of Ananda Maitreya, Bhante, Dhammananda.
Dhammananda, yeah.
And I don't know why, but maybe because they didn't have cable TV or something, but they were very, very good and very inspiring, and they knew the Dhamma very well.
Yeah.
And when they teach it well like that, you feel very.
And they didn't have cell phones.
Exactly.
There's so many ways to get distracted today. There's so many different kinds of screens we can look at. But in the old days, the monks, oftentimes, sometimes in caves, sometimes in the monastery, nothing else to do but study the Dharma.
They need to make a Vinaya rule, no Facebook.
There you go. Yeah, which would ruin me because I've got a lot of followers, and now I'm teaching the Catholics, so it's good. But yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, you're right. It's a whole different generation than it used to be. Yeah. Good. Well, thanks for coming and listening to me speak today, and I'm happy that I was able to keep Dr. Ratnasar alive. But one day there'll be somebody will speak his name for the last time, and then he'll go, probably into nirvana after that. So that's good. Thank you.
Thank you again. I want to say a few things. Next Sunday is Sai Maharjan is going to give a Dhamma talk. And regarding about the Dr. Ratan Sara, I am the person more close to him more than other people. Because I am his nephew, I am his student also. I be with him since I am 12 years old. I'm coming from same family. So if you need more information, talk to me first. Thank you again, and I always respect my teacher. I take care of him very well, not only myself. We have 3 months. Last few years when he was sick, last few months, almost he passed away 2000. 1998, 97, 99, 2000. We have 3 months around him, take care very well. So sometime I remember just before he passed away, like a few days ago, he was saying, "Oh, I want to go back my home." I said, "Okay, let's go." We put him to the wheelchair and we put him to the car. We drive to the eco park. There's the lake there, and we walk there a little bit. I say, "We come ready for your home. Let's go back to the other place." Okay, he said, "Let's go." And he's, like a little child in that time. So we have a good time also, but we take care. However, he's a great teacher, as everybody know about him. He's my uncle, and yes, I miss him. Still his legacy is there back home. Also, we have a lot of places. I take care of everything. The 3 temples, big 3 temples I take care also. Even I am here, and so yes, we miss him very much. So we wish him reach the nirvana. Say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So we will chant the page 4 and page 10. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless.
I vow to save them all. Dueling passions are impossible.
I vow to send them all. Dhamma days are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fearless be. May the grieving shall all grieve, and the sick find healthily. Thank you again for everybody, and we have a tea and cookies. As I mentioned, next Sunday Sai Mahajan is going to give a Dhamma talk. Please come and join with us. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, by the power of all the Bodhisattvas, you all be well and happy.